Salutations everyone, I'm Bikoshi, and welcome back to another review of Moon Knight this week on 420. That's right. Well, 420 blaze it for Moon Knight, because you're about to get stoned as fuck when watching this episode, especially what happens in the last act of this episode. Which, obviously spoilers are imminent in this video, so if you haven't watched Moon Knight, you should watch it, because I'm gonna go to explicit detail before, the effects start to hit. I'm not stoned now, don't worry. Put your green card away. or your PSA kind of thing, whatever. Anyway, so this episode, we are like, what? This is episode 4 now. We have 2 episodes left of Moon Knight. Holy crap. This is going by fast. I did not expect this. This show is probably going to end on May, if I'm thinking correctly, correct? And what is shown here... Yeah, so, what has happened in this episode? Jesus. This has been a very deep character dive that we start to get more questions answered. Surprised enough, it's not a flashback, it's more of a telling kind of thing of what happened on the day that Mark regrets, but also the day that Mark died, which is an interesting thing to learn about. And we get to learn that Mark wasn't the guy who killed Layla's father. It was actually his partner, which we have not seen, who has killed Mark, shot him cold dead, and he probably met Kamshu once he died, and then he came back to life, only for him to get killed again by Ethan Hawke's character Harrow, which I'm now starting to remember his name now, Harrow, where he shot him cold dead with a revolver, and he's like, well, fuck you, bam, and then kills him, shoots him 3 times or 2, like, Jesus. And then we start to get something at the end, which I'll explain later. But this episode has been very archaeology heavy, more history about them trying to find the tomb. Basic stuff you see in the Mummy movies or any Indiana Jones movie, basically. And I think that was pretty cool to see those types of things I love in those kind of like action adventure archaeology kind of like movies like Indiana Jones and the Mummy movies. And I love that they did it a lot here, them talking about like, oh, we gotta go through this path right here because it's a clue to how to get to like Amit's tomb or anything. And it was even like a lot of Mummy kind of esque things too, like those undead like creatures that are starting to make these clicking noises. It kind of reminded me the way they're making the clicking noises. You can go like that. Like it's kind of like the clickers from Last of Us. That's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like the clickers from Last of Us, but the way they move, the way they act, it reminded me of something I've seen in the Mummy movies, like both either the god awful 2017 movie and in the 1999 movie. It reminded me of like those undead like soldiers that was following Emotep, or like how they crawl or walk with how they move. It reminded me of like Sophia Botella's Mummy, how she like moved and walked in a few of the beginning stages of her being the Mummy in the first half of the movie. it kind of reminded me on that, only it looks so much better to me because one, this is practical. Like half of it CGI, half of it practical. Like they actually had someone in makeup to look like this undead creature, which I thought was pretty cool. I love that. I literally did enjoy that. Like they blended it nicely to have it CGI and practical effects of like actually someone there in a possible makeup effects and maybe a bodysuit to look like a rotting corpse. It's handled better than knowing that the Moon Knight suit is actually real. Like freaking uh, Oscar Isaac actually wore the suit. At least that's what he confirmed when he said in an interview, which makes me wonder, did they not like the suit when they first tried it on him and they were trying to do practical and the studio was like, just CGI the whole thing? Because if so, I'm kind of disappointed. Is it like the thing, the 2011 prequel thing movie where they did practical effects for the creatures and the monsters and the aliens in that movie, but then the studio got in the way and said, no, it looks like shit. CGI it because it will totally look better in CGI. Spoiler alert, it did not. And if you want to see what they actually look like with practical effects, you can watch a behind the scenes feature of that movie and see that the practical effects were much better than the CGI travesty we got. Still not a good movie, but at least you would have had some good practical effects in that film. And seeing this, I did love this connection we get to see more with Steven, Mark, and Layla, and seeing how much you see the connection of all of them. Like Mark, like you see like there's a difference between Mark and Steven, where Mark is pushing away from people he cares about because he doesn't want to harm them. Well, Steven's like, he wants people close to him and he would always tell the truth, which he does to Layla, saying, like, hey, Mark did this because he feared that you would get taken by Kamshu. And then, Layla's like, it's not his choice to make. I could have, like, that wasn't his choice to make, Like, he could have just told me that. And that would be the end of it, probably. And which is pretty interesting to hear that Layla's like, hey, he shouldn't have just pushed me away like that, which understandable. But you can understand why Mark did it because he wanted to protect her. And then you can see why Mark met Layla and why he married her and why he cared about her. And it was because of guilt, which I kind of already suspected because I was like, oh, did he killed her father, regrets it, tries to inform her and say I'm sorry, but then ended up falling in love with the daughter. Luckily, he didn't kill the dad. It was just some asshole partner of his that killed the dad. Which, okay, good. You kept the character at least a redeemable ability, at least. But then again, it wouldn't matter if Mark does have regret and he wants to right his sins and right his wrongs, which is understandable if he wants to repair the damage that's been done. But, that still is like, oh, well, we gotta get through this shit because now we have to have the moment where Layla just like, I can't trust Mark anymore because of what he said and what he's doing, which is understandable for her to get mad after Mark has lied to her just to say like, I protected you, but still that's vital information, Mark, that you have kept away from her, and that's pretty fucked up. But Mark is not a perfect man. He's just not. God, I do love this. It's more of a this is like a chill episode where we get to learn more about Mark's past and what has happened to him, despite we don't get a flashback of that. We just hear him tell about it. And even though, yeah, it would be nice to know what happened there, like actually see a scene. But since I've been watching a lot of Easter egg videos of the show, I did connect the piece to say, like, yeah, Kamshu, like, even if I didn't know the information that was given about, like, Kamshu brought him back to life, only his brain is damaged, I would have actually pieced it together of that Mark was like saying when he said like I was supposed to die that day, but I didn't. And I could be like, okay, I'm taking the context. That's when he met Kamshu and he came back to life. Understandable. And you can tell how because again, he was probably in that excavation like dig that probably the dad, like Layla's dad, was in, and probably Kamshu was right there, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? You want to be resurrected and shit?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then that's what happened. And it's a very slow episode. Not gonna lie, it was. I mean, as much as I said it was character development, I said that, but it's little information for a long episode, but still it is a big deal of knowing this information and being shocked about it. But to be fair, we all knew what was coming, but not really at the same time. I will say that I kind of knew beat for beat what this episode was going to do. I did like the characters get more screen time and more chemistry with each other. I do enjoy that, but it is bogged down by how slow it can be with just getting to the point of what they were going to do in this episode. And I'm not saying it's a bad episode. It's fine. It's interesting. I do like it. I do love it when we get to see these characters interact more so than just seeing them fight. Like, fighting is like shockingly the least interesting part of this show. It's more of the mental like battle between Mark, Steven, and an unknown third personality, which I hear is a complete bastard from what I hear from comic book fans of who the third personality is. And that's it. I do love the more character side than the action side of this show, honestly. It's weird. I mean, not to say the action's bad, it's just that what makes the show more interesting is learning about these characters more, which is pretty cool. I do enjoy that with this show. And then it gets trippy. Hey, so they found Amit's tomb. Mark and Steven found Amit first, but then Haro like shoots Mark dead, like shoots him twice in the chest, or maybe three, I can't remember. And then as soon as Mark starts to probably feel that blissfulness of death before dying, he probably is in a somewhat of a purgatory. It looked like a purgatory. Like it's no feat for a fact to say like, oh, was it all just a dream? Was it just him? Was it just all in his mind? And he was just making up shit from what he saw in his surroundings? Like, no. Everything's all white. It's too coincidental that they show all the stuff. A Moon Knight action figure? Nah. And all this Egyptian shit that's around a mental hospital, possibly? Yeah, no. I'm not fooled. This is definitely a purgatory in Mark's mind. Which is so bizarre. Like, this whole purgatory thing is so bizarre because once it starts, it all of a sudden cuts to this cheesy, low budget looking adventure movie called Tomb Tomb Blazer, Tomb Hunter, Tomb Raider. Not really, but and it shows that Ethan Hawke was just a psychiatrist the whole time. Odd. And all of his patrons that followed him are just staff of this mental hospital. What? No, it's weird. It is honestly weird. Like, it's the most trippy thing in the entire episode, and I was left, like, jaw dropped, wondering what the fuck is going on. And then it gets even weirder because we get to see, like, oh, look, there's a hippo god that says hi. I'm assuming it's, I don't know if I'm correct, but I'm assuming it's the girl that Mark and Steven met during the trial that happened on for Kamshu. I'm assuming it is. I'm not sure. Maybe it is her, maybe it's not. And then this scene, which I thought was interesting, is that you know that Mark is not the one trapped in a tomb because he is the person who originated from that body, and the two personalities are stuck in caskets, and you see like there's Steven in one of them, and then there's one trying to get out that's aggressively punching through it and trying to escape, which I'm assuming is the third personality that came out that killed all those guys in the last episode. And we don't know what this person is still. We don't know who they are. We're still kept in that dark and mystery of who it is. And the episode ends, which feels to be honest, I feel like the episode should have ended where Mark gets shot and then it cuts to that little light thing and it gets dark and then the episode ends right there. Instead, it just kept going, which I feel like would have been a good opener for the next episode. This whole like mental hospital purgatory that Mark's in, and then we would get to that part. But no, it needed to cut to a like cliffhanger, like, oh my god, let's see Mark and Steven scream for their lives because they say a hippo goddess. Like, ha. To be fair, I feel like it should have ended with Mark getting shot and then the episode ends. Like, that would have been the cliffhanger stinger. Did he die? Did he not die? Obviously, he's not going to die. He's the star of the show. But, like, still, it would have been better to keep that mystery of what happens to Mark after he got shot. And then the episode could have, the fifth episode could have began with Mark in that mental hospital confused, wondering what the hell is going on. But it kept going, which is odd. It just felt so out of place, and it just ends. It just stops. And we get the credits looking like it's underwater now because Mark is currently possibly drowning right now in his state. Who knows? It is interesting how it's amazing that this episode can give you a lot, but not give you that much at the same time. Like, I feel like this is like the middle ground episode where you're not given much, but at least you got something that was better than nothing, at least. I kind of wish it would have gone more faster, the episode, because even though it went by quick for me, it still feels like they didn't do that much in this episode. Like the previous episodes, there was a lot going on, there was a lot they were doing. Well, in this one, it was like we're in a tomb for the majority of this episode, and we don't do much but try to hide from the enemy and then do some archaeology shit and also get some questions answered. And that's fine, but it kind of feels like the pacing slowed down a bit. Like the first, second, third episode kept this high octane momentum going, like oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, and it's like okay, let's chill a bit for the fourth episode and just like calm down. Let's talk. How have you been? What secrets are you hiding from me, bitch? Did you kill my dad? And it's not a bad episode. I wouldn't call it Loki episode what 3 bad, because that episode was so bogged and so freaking boring about like, hey, let me talk about selfie and let's talk about what she was like as another Loki. No, they just sit around doing nothing, trying to get out of a unescapable planet that was doomed to be destroyed. And that's it. They don't get much character development, much talk about each other. They just sit and bicker and argue. It's not that bad. At least we get some character development in the 4th episode of Moon Knight more than episode 3 of Loki. So I wouldn't put it in that ranks as bad. So it's still a vital episode to learn from, which is good. It's just not the best. But anyway, what will happen next in the next episode of Moon Knight? I'm not sure. I'm very intrigued to wonder. I'm also like concerned to, was there any pre-planning to say like, hey, should we really do the same thing that the Eternals did, where they just sat around doing nothing and not interfere with human affairs? I mean, it's pointed out, people pointed it out as well, like, oh wow, it's like the Eternals all over again. Like, this better not be a common trend in future Marvel movies. Oh, why didn't you come along when Thanos was destroying half the population? We couldn't interfere with human problems. Like, you can't say, like, feel like what if they said that in what, like if the X-Men ever came to the MCU? Why didn't you come, Wolverine? I mean, they could just make the excuse and say like, oh, we were blipped as well, so we didn't do anything also. So at least that would make sense. Why were the X-Men there? They were blipped. We can't always make the excuse. Is this going to be the new Sky Portal trend? Most powerful Marvel characters, why they didn't come to stop Thanos. We couldn't interfere. That would be the worst trend in Marvel movies, is that why weren't they there? Because they couldn't interfere. Stupid answer to everything. I really hope that's not the answer to everything, because if it is the answer to everything, I would be annoyed as hell if it's always the answer. We will not interfere with human affairs, blah blah blah. Ugh. What do you guys think? Are you still with Moon Knight after this episode, or are you just tired of it? Me, I'm still curious where the show goes. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you Wolfpack in the next one. Ciao, darlings, and remember, you are loved.
Ow, ow, ow! Ow! Ow!